Hi everyone, I'm going to see if I can actually get this video done before I lose sunlight. It's just after sunset here. The things that astrologers track. So there's enough light, it looks like. So I've been away for a while and I may as well jump in and give you a sense of where we're at right now. We had a quarter moon today, which is the quarter moon between the full moon, which we had last week, and the new moon that's going to happen on Sunday, on October the 27th. And in some ways, this is my favorite time of the lunar cycle. Well, my favorite time of the lunar cycle is right after a new moon, when the energy of a new moon comes in and you feel refreshed and energized and ready to go. My second favorite time is probably around this time of the lunar cycle. You know, after about 72 hours after a full moon, after the intensity of a full moon, everything somehow becomes more manageable. Things start to get done, and there's just a better balance, I think, between the intensity of a full moon and the amount of work that needs to get done around it, and the franticness and the pace increase and the flatness before a new moon. So insofar as this is a where we at now kind of energy, I would say enjoy this equilibrium and the ability perhaps to get things done and wrap things up and wrap certain things up and make a certain amount of progress over the next 3 or 4 days. Because as you head towards the new moon, as many of you have heard me say before, probably Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the energy is going to be pretty flat, and you're gonna likely have a hard time getting things done and motivating. It's going to be time to rest. It's going to be time to purge the last lunar cycle that began on September the 28th in the sign of Libra. So this brings me to point number 2. We are still in and are wrapping up a certain amount of Libra energy. And all my, if you look at my video list, there are videos on various planets in Libra, and you can revisit those. Essentially a balancing of the scales when it comes to relationships, and also to some extent money. A relieving of pressure, perhaps. A balancing of scales. Now, the reason why I say we're getting done with Libra season is because the last new moon was on the 28th of September, and we have the next new moon in Scorpio on October the 27th, which will push the emphasis and the feeling of our time into Scorpio season. Now, till November the 19th, Mars will still be in Libra, so a certain amount of energy and drive will still be put into wherever it is that the sign of Libra is in your chart, and this kind of balancing the scales energy. But because it's Mars, the way in which the balancing of scales will be done will be quite compatible with Scorpio energy, because Mars rules Scorpio and is not very comfortable in Libra. You have the planet of action and the planet of the individual wanting to get things done in a sign that is about partnership and focusing on the other party. So there's a certain amount of there's going to be a certain amount of discomfort. Well, let me put it this way. We had various planets in Virgo. As I've explained to you before, each sign comes along to balance some sort of excess in the previous sign. So we talked about the selfishness of Virgo, insofar as Virgo is a sign of execution. It is a sign of getting things done. It is a sign of taking care of stuff that we have on our plate, getting our agenda taken care of, and using resources and people around us in order to get things done, including our own energy and our own health and our own resourcefulness. So there's a certain selfishness to Virgo season with regard to things needing to get done, me needing to get my to-do list done, and how is it that other people can be used to get my needs met. There's a selfishness and a neediness to wherever to Virgo as a sign that Libra then comes in and tries to balance. It says, okay, hold on, but what about the other person? Let's balance the scales in terms of relationships and look for releasing a certain amount of weight, putting the other party first, thinking about where the other party may be at, extending a hand, greater partnership, greater togetherness, perhaps. Okay. Yeah, okay, togetherness. And then there's an assumption when it comes to Libra season that a balancing of the scales and a certain amount of relationship harmony is really only possible if we look the other way a certain amount. And indeed, Libra being the sign of marriage and the sign of partnership almost poses that the only way to have a successful long-term relationship, whether it is with a marriage partner or a romantic partner or a business partner or a roommate or a good friend or anyone, is to be able to look the other way, is to be able to ignore certain things and certain behaviors. Indeed, one could argue, or the sign of Libra would argue, that the success of a long-term relationship is based on your ability to forgive on a daily basis. Indeed, in a marriage, you might argue that on a day-to-day basis, you have to forgive the other party 20, 30 times for all those little things that they do that annoy the crap out of you. And the sign of Libra kind of poses and says, let's focus, because it means let's focus on harmony, let's focus on letting things go, let's focus on politeness and decency and kindness and watch what we're saying, almost to the extent of not insincerity, but being nice, being polite, being harmony oriented, letting things go. And then as we head towards Scorpio season, the sign of Scorpio comes along and says, no, I'm sorry, I'm only concerned with the emotional truth of what is in this relationship. The only way we can truly be close and true is to face the truth related to this relationship. We go from the focus on the other party back to the focus on ourselves to some extent with regard to what is true for us in each relationship. Okay. Scorpio season, as it is affectionately referred to, is rather long, and indeed I refer to this fall as the fall of Scorpio, which we haven't entirely started to feel, but we're going to soon and shortly. So where we are at right now is this last week of maybe enjoying a certain amount of downtime, but a greater intimation and a greater urgency. This is the first week when we will truly start to feel Scorpio season start to heat up. We have the new moon in Scorpio on the 27th, and Mercury goes retrograde. Right now we have Mercury and Venus in Scorpio. In a couple of days, the sun will enter Scorpio. So we're going to have Mercury, Venus, and the sun, and then a new moon on Sunday. Venus is going to move out of here a few days after the new moon on the 31st, I think, which is just as well, or December the 1st, or November the 1st, somewhere around there. But Mercury going retrograde on October the 31st, we're going to start to feel by the time the new moon arrives. Indeed, we're feeling it now. We're feeling it now. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that we are going to start to become compelled to communicate about things that have not been working for us, or maybe even trying to put into words what may not have been working for the other party in relationships, with an eagerness and a desire to get to a more truthful, honest place, dig into the truth of certain relationships, where we may have ignored or taken our foot off the pedal to some extent, or balanced the scales. And now we're heading towards a certain amount of truth-telling time. Who am I in relationship with? We move from the axis of identity, Aries, Libra, to the axis of relationship, Taurus, Scorpio. Themes of being financially enmeshed with others, emotionally enmeshed with others, codependency, dependency, contact, intimacy, connectedness, truth with a capital T. All of these things are going to be coming up more and more. And indeed, Mercury came into Scorpio on October the 3rd, and I think Venus came in on October the 8th. So certain things have been brewing. But Venus being uncomfortable in Scorpio, we've still been given a bit of a break, where things have been brewing, but we have not been in a place where we've been feeling like we really want to start the conversations. Well, that's going to start to change this week. And we may start to communicate, or we may be lining things up in such a way that we communicate. And certainly Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, October the 31st to November the 20th, is going to bring up a certain amount of confusion and a desire to rake up things from the past, dig them up for examination, ideally with an eye towards getting clarity. Is this a healthy relationship or is it not a healthy relationship? Is there crap going down here that doesn't work for us, or is there something here that we can really build on? But one thing I'm going to tell you about Scorpio season, because most people are assuming that as planets move into Sag and Capricorn, Scorpio season will be over. The bulk of the Mars moves into Scorpio after all these shenanigans are getting done, because Mercury is retrograde on October 31st and goes direct on November the 20th. But on November the 19th, Mars, the ruler of Scorpio, moves into Scorpio and is here till January the 3rd. So from October the 3rd to January the 3rd, we have some sort of activity in Scorpio. That's an awfully long time. It'll be nice to get Venus out of here so that the planet of relationships isn't too uncomfortable. But we are getting to enjoy this week. For the next 72 hours, try to get things done and make your to-do lists. And if you feel like certain arrows start to shoot in terms of communications related to relationships, fine. But we are very shortly, by the time we head towards next week, we are going to have to dive into some deep waters related to either financial enmeshments. I don't even know if enmeshments is a word, but it conveys it, whatever it is, or romantic enmeshments or relationship enmeshments. Who am I in bed with? Who am I intimate with? Who am I truly in relationship with? And what is going on in these relationships? And there are past things that need to be discussed and brought up and examined and raked up and... But Mercury retrograde is only part of the story. It is only part of digging things up that need to be looked at and may come with a certain amount of confusion. But when Mars comes in here on November the 19th, indeed till January the 3rd, that Mars in Scorpio is, I mean, talk about Scorpio. That's when progress can occur. That's really when healing can occur. So balancing the scales and trying to achieve a certain amount of fairness and justice in terms of relationships is soon to be developed into really examining relationships, these relationships, and really seeing what is under the surface. Is it crap? Or is it a strong foundation? Or are there some jewels here? I think in previous videos I have promised a tumultuous fall, but a fall that is necessary, and a fall and an examination of things that might set us up to move forward progressively as we get past November the 20th, certainly as we head into January. But then we're going to have eclipses. December the 24th is going to be the first one, and then one on January the 10th. I'm going to keep posting videos to walk you through this process, and it's starting to get awfully dark. So we're going to leave it at this, but the bottom line is I want you to enjoy the next 72 hours and try to make the most of the equilibrium and the energy of productivity, and then prepare for the fact that as you head towards the new moon on the 27th, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you might become progressively flatter and may find it harder to execute. But after the new moon in Scorpio, and indeed even this week you might find yourself preparing mentally and emotionally to have the conversations and the communications and prepare to bring things up from the past that need to be examined. And I wonder if that's resonating with people who are watching this video, actually. But starting next week, this work is really going to begin in earnest for a good 3 weeks. And again, there are more videos to come over the next few days that are going to delve deeper into each of these subjects and topics. Okay? If you find this useful, share it. You can leave a comment. You can like the video. I'd appreciate that. You're welcome to subscribe to my YouTube channel. My contact information is in the description area, so you can reach out to me if you're interested in a reading. Pay attention, folks, to where the signs of Libra are in your chart. Relevant certainly still this week, but certainly start to look at where Scorpio is in your chart, because that is where a lot of stuff over the next few months is going to play out. Okay, over and out.